Jujutsu Kaisen is a very special case. Its popularity grew exponentially in a very short time, become one of the strongest exponents in the Shonen Jump. But what about video games? With its first publication in 2018 until now, they haven't created a game with important values on this anime. It seemed to be an easy gold mine due to its popularity. However, today, in early February 2024, we would get Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash. Guys, if you really would like to continue watching videos related to these games, reviews, tops and so on, leave a like so we can reach that goal of 100 likes. This Jujutsu Kaisen game, many of us were waiting for it for a couple of months. Now that it's here, it's time to clarify our doubts. Did it meet the expectations? It's entertaining? Let's take a look at it. On February 2nd, 2024, it would arrive for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch and PC. An indication that I don't know if I can take it as something positive, since at this point the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series arrived more than 3 years ago and they need to start working on this hardware as a new standard, not only because companies require them to have more elements to take into account for the consumer when buying a next-gen console, but especially because with the new graphics and processing engines, they can give them the luxury of unleashing their creativity, create innovative things which have not been experienced before, instead of being constantly stopped by a less powerful engine. The funny thing is that doesn't happen here, because Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash was developed with all generation consoles in mind, and now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but they denote the type of game they wanted to create. Not something very extravagant, not something that shocked the standards of anime games, just something simple, a fighting game based on a popular anime. Period. We know that Viking are in charge of this project, developers of My Hero Wants Justice. For that same reason, the focus on the story mode, they choose to make it very similar. This covers all the events of the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. Through different sections, we can play battles that occurred in the series. At the same time, they teach us how to play, a topic we will get into soon. Intercovering with the fights and dialogues panels very similar to those in Wants Justice. They are images from the anime set in a montage that points to a faster account of things, introducing new characters and new threats in almost every section. This is a bit disappointing, since, well, we already knew this thanks to some trailers that showed in more detail how the story mode would work, but they never specified how extremely loaded of this panels the story mode would be, and for more than the first 50% of the game you never see a complete cinematic again since the prologue. I understand that maybe the budget was not too much, but if they didn't really have the resources to make a decent representation, and from a game that charged you at full price, what's the point of doing it? A better option would have been opting for a game that only had an arcade mode. Of course, a large part of the audience would be disgusted, but at least those who had made the decision to buy it would already have a clear idea of what to look forward to, without high expectations in a spectacular story mode, because the fights themselves are entertaining. They relax you a little after watching so many conversation panels. The few cinematics included are actually very well polished. I like the design, the animations, the rhythm of the movements. It seems like I'm watching Jujutsu Kaisen, but I wish there were many more of them. Progress in the missions grants you new skins and even unlockable items. The game collectibles are not very relevant, but it is what you will receive the most if your first stop will be the story mode. I liked the soundtrack a lot. I felt that each theme adjusted very well to its situations, intercalating between serenity, a tense of atmosphere, or also the battle soundtracks. That contributed a lot to the events of the story mode, even more than the images, if I'm honest with you. But okay, let's move on to the most interesting thing, the gameplay. Here I have a dilemma, since the graphic style used by Curse Clash seems the right one to me. I feel that taking into account the career of Viking, these designs were what were expected. However, I think they don't add any value to the feeling of the game, more in the sense that the movements don't feel fluid enough to represent the skills that were so spectacular in Jujutsu Kaisen. Of course, when we can most appreciate that attachment is in the fighters' ultimates. They are pretty well executed and leave almost chaining, because even if this happens in a mirror match, it's not as if they both collide and that's it. No, One of the two randomly will win the neutral, making that every combat becomes an exchange of probabilities and not skill. And you already know what I think about probability in fighting games. Moreover, not a fighting game, it's an arena fighter. But even as an exponent of this genre, it is lacking of so many things, because this is a basic feature to maintain not only the balance in the combat, but also its rhythm. To be honest, Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash entertained me, but it doesn't have a perfect fighting system. It's enjoyable, you have different types of hit with each character, alternating with buttons such as square, triangle and circle. You can generate curious combinations, making a lot of use of the air environment. Actually, very little is usually fighted on the floor in a heavy duel. The special abilities are varied since they don't have just one version, but they are altered, giving them different properties and unique aspects. They may do more damage, have better range, and that will depend on your special meter and awakening ability, a state in which you can use the main expansion. Once there, you get advantages of all kinds: damage boost, range, health regeneration, greater speed. They got a little crazy with these advantages, to be honest. The environment within these matches is really big and reminded me a lot of when you have to find your rival in J-Star's Victory. This is a very large space which allows you to move freely, both horizontally and vertically. This may also cause some problems with the camera when we approach some surface, but it happened to me on a very few opportunities. The fights can be 2 against 2 or an individual duel of 1 against 1, but both have almost the same rules. In duos, you can use joint attacks to take advantage of a streak of chain strikes. To take advantage of the single player experience, you have, in addition to the story mode, a versus mode against the CPU. And that's it. Its most varied options are in the online mode. The only online game mode that I could try was the online versus, thanks to the fact that my matchmaking region appears not to be interested in playing co-op. In this case, it took a long time to find rivals, which says a lot about the game since it just came out 2 weeks ago. The combats are delay based and not rollback, which makes you have to get used to the delay inputs, as happens with games like Storm Connections or the latest game developed by Viking, Once Justice. I must say that the pace of the game improves a little, because when you play against someone real, everything speeds up more and you begin to understand more how measuring your movements to counterattack works. Unfortunately, the incentives to play online are nothing more than trying another game mode to not play with the CPU, since they only give you rewards of skins and objects, often irrelevant. Also, when someone rage quits, Curse Clash does not have a system to punish that, and players like this don't have any penalty. This leads to the top board to be full of trash players who just quit every time. Finally, Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash is a different game, with a slower moving speed than others of its genre, which doesn't cause a very good first impression. The total of characters, despite being only 16, I think they make up what is required as a minimum for a varied roster, and also include a lot of fan service with the special team attacks and unedited animations of their interactions, referencing many epic moments from the series. But yes, it takes time to get used to it, but when you do it, the game is enjoyable. Nah, I don't think so. Has anyone already tried the game? If so, believe me that more than one here would be interested in hearing what you think. I'll be reading here in the comments. That was all for today, guys, and I'll be watching you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed, take care, and see ya.